Ready? All right, let's get started. Compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, and wish to state that on Friday, August the 22nd, 2014, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel-Ledger, and the Herald Times, and it is filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting and will be available on UTTV Channel 97 and on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct that this announcement be made a part of the minutes of this meeting, and I would ask all to rise for the salute to the flag. In fact, Scott, would you like to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? You can, as long as, are you getting him on the phone? All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Scott. We'll be calling you up in a few minutes. Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr? Here. Mr. Goggins?
Here.
Mr. Sarah?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mayor Colombo?
Here.
All members are present.
Okay, would someone like to make make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting and closed session on August the 11th?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any corrections, omissions, deletions that anyone's aware of? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Goggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
I guess I should abstain because I missed the first half hour of the meeting, so I'll abstain.
Motion is carried with 4 in favor.
Okay? So we'll go around the table here. Barbara, do you have anything for us this evening?
I have nothing to report this evening, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel?
Nothing at this time, but we do have a couple litigation matters, a contract negotiation matter, and personnel matters for close.
Okay. Paul?
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight two of the municipal reports that are on the agenda. Both are from the Green Team. They're part of the final Sustainable Jersey certification. We had submitted everything, if you remember, back in June, and there's a couple items that just needed some updating and clarification, and part of that was just a formal acknowledgement of those reports on an agenda, and if anybody had any questions about them, I'd be happy to answer them. The first one was for the fleet inventory. Really just identifies how the our fleet makeup is, and looking at fuel consumption and mileage, and the emissions that are connected with that, and just to highlight it, and then try to meet some goals of trying to reduce emissions, whether it's through mileage or fuel consumption. And then the other study was the diversity study that looked at the various diversity on the planning board, zoning board, the municipal action committee, and the sports and recreation advisory board.
Okay.
And that's all I had today.
Okay. Thank you. Barbara?
Just have one item this evening. We have a request from the secretary in the construction office to attend a class. The class would be for technical assistant to the construction official. The class is going to run every Saturday from the 6th of September until October 25th. The cost is $450 plus books, and she's requesting that she be able to take the class.
And I asked Barbara to bring this before the committee for two reasons. One, I think it's certainly appropriate that we continue to send our staff to the proper training sessions, and to keep up to date with some of the newer requirements that are in place. But secondly, because of the circumstance that that particular individual may be applying for one of our director of the courts, I still think it's, since we haven't gone through any interview process at this point, I think it's appropriate that she attend that, because if anything, the notes from the meeting and the summary that she can prepare for us, or someone else that may take over the position, it was certainly worthwhile to have her attend this. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve that moving forward.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I have the same concern as you, what happens when she leaves, so she leaves this, so.
Well, see, here's the problem. This is,
Will she be able to train the next person, the next?
well, I think here's the situation. I think she'll be able to train someone to take the place, but it certainly it would not be in lieu of the certification that she would obtain from this.
No, I understand that, but at least she will be able to train somebody else in the place.
Right.
So, we spend, it's not a waste of resources.
Right. I mean, and that's why I asked to bring it before the committee. From my perspective, this particular course has not been offered locally down here. In the past, it was in North Jersey, so not only was it the expense for the class, it was travel expenses and everything else. This is local, and that's why I think it's worthwhile, even if, as we go through the process of interviewing, and if something works out favorably or whatever, we still have somebody that has access to the information that could train somebody. So,
As long as she gets permission for us.
okay, so
I
is,
second that.
okay, is there any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Pogens?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, that's all I had tonight.
Okay, Mr. Coggins.
Nothing for me this evening, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Young.
On recreation, things are a little bit quieter. Everybody's in the start mode right now. Football has been scrimmaged in the last 2 weeks, doing quite well. The numbers are way up. Cheerleaders' numbers at camp is well over 70 girls. And they're really working well together for one common cause, which we haven't had for about a year, so it's really nice to see that. Basketball, men's basketball will be starting up again at the community center, and will be run by Chris Chadwick again. So that'll be open. The schedule for that will be at the clerk's office through Karen. And other than that, that's about it for right now.
Basketball, right?
Okay.
It's adult basketball.
Basketball, sorry.
Adult basketball, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Adult basketball.
We had an issue a few years back.
Yeah.
Good, correct.
I'm with you on that one.
That's it.
Mr. Insera.
I have a couple of things. One is, as we know, we have trucks that are going to go out for disposal. There's one more we're going to add to the list. Roy took delivery of his pickup truck. So we'll be adding his pickup truck to that
Okay,
as well.
okay.
Whatever it is, it's money to account. The county, we've been going back and forth with this county, don't maintain our streets, they're doing a poor job. They've been out there after months, we've been fighting and arguing with them, they finally went out to Griswold Boulevard, they cleaned it up. They made a believe they cleaned it up, and they roared, they sent our guys out there to finish up the job. Stagecoach is a shamble, Hook Course in the same way.
Hook Course, I agree with you. Hook Course
It's
in,
rolling out, it's pathetic. What I want to know is this, we have a shared service with them. But this board, either they're not going to do anything, they're not doing anything, our guys do it, and then charge them back.
Paul, I know that there was a drainage issue, they were looking for an easement for the drainage issue, right?
Yes.
But wasn't that taken care of?
Well, they've done an initial drainage project, yes, on Hope Corson. I think he's applying for the final DEP permits to extend the ultimate drainage from Hope Corson and Stagecoach down Stagecoach to our drainage basin at Island View. So at some point, the county is going to be requesting from the township an easement to, put the drain line down our portion of Stagecoach Road and discharge into our basin. So between that and getting the final permits from the DEP for the project, I think there was only holdups at this point before he can go to construction, and I think it was sometime next year is what he was anticipating.
But in the meantime, there's a lot of potholes, that really is.
Vegetation is just one little place, they've done nothing at all.
Have there been letters written to the county? Do we have a record of it?
Send one out, right, Robert?
Yes.
I've reached out to them probably 4 times in the course of 1 month, every week.
Have we requested that, the right to do it ourselves and charge it back?
No, I have I don't know.
I would suggest we at least do that, to say that we've gotten so many complaints, and frankly, if you haven't had a response, perhaps you should also copy the freeholders at this point, if you're not getting a response.
I mean, pothole-wise,
Bob did send a letter, and Gail did respond,
Yes.
and said they cleaned everything up, well,
Well, they come on, they did Roosevelt Boulevard,
and that's all they did.
and it wasn't even done.
So,
Right, so that's,
I mean, the site triangle, the Stagecoach and Church Road, you can't even see anything coming on the left-hand side. The growth
It's
is so
difficult, I
high.
go by there every day, yes.
It's dangerous, and they're not doing anything.
it's like, you know, application, so what? We're not doing anything.
I talked to the road foreman 2 weeks ago regarding the site triangle at Church Road and Tuckahoe Road, and he was out the next day clearing it, so I'll let him know about the site triangle.
The whole stretch.
Yeah, that's.
I think what needs to be done is, if you're going to have that conversation, you should follow up with a letter confirming all the sites that have a problem, and if it's not done, then I think we should send the correspondence saying, we're going to do it, and we'll charge you.
It's pretty much every county road in the
I
township.
think it's an appearance, we should do that anyway, because we're being too lean. We have to.
I think you need to tell them you're going to charge them first, because I don't know what right you have under the law just to go out and do it and charge them. I think you need to get their attention if they're not responding, but it sounds like they are responding, they're just not responding appropriately.
Yeah, and then I'm going for a job, they just come over and tease us, and walk away. Yeah, I had to send one out there to finish up the job and start it.
That's the
By
freehold.
the time they do cut it, it's just mounds of dead grass piled up all over the streets. It
And it's legal.
doesn't look any better. And again, if we're going to try to attract commercial down in that corridor.
I'm not defending the county. My point is that I don't know unilaterally whether you have the right to go out on their road and cut their, and then get reimbursed.
Well, when we go to the tax center, I don't know, see how fast I'm moving.
It might be worth it one time just to get their attention.
Let them know that we need business, you know, enough is enough. They got to come out and clean the township.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Tony. I'm just telling you that I don't know how enforceable a request for payment would be.
Figure out what's going to cost, we throw the money back in the tax center, and we'll see how fast I'm moving. Like the trees on the street, for 2 years now, they haven't done nothing.
I'm not disagreeing with your comments. I'm just concerned about being able to
And I'm
enforce it.
really concerned, I mean, the street is dangerous. I mean, you drive down there, you bounce all over the place, and it really is a bad reflection on us, because I think most individuals don't realize it's a county road, they think it's our road, and that we're not properly maintaining it. And, you know, it's
Another
unfortunate,
suggestion is a
but-
resolution on the next meeting, in addition to what Paul's going to do, put a resolution on the next meeting that outline the concerns of lack of maintenance on our county roads, and detail those lack of maintenance. It's a much more formal, as opposed to a letter going out and only going to the engineer. That's another option that you have.
Okay, well,
You want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion, yes.
Second.
All right.
But I would suggest, because of the dangerous situation, that you also do what Paul advised, if he has a working relationship with road department, to get them out there, at least to the dangerous triangles, the site triangles.
The safety issues, I've never had a problem. They've always been within 1 or 2 days, come out and done the repairs.
If they
And I
have somebody
requested
inspecting the roads.
Are these safety issues that we're talking about? or-
I think some of them are,
Some are, some just aesthetically, and we shouldn't have them. We all here, the township pay tax to the county. Yeah, they're supposed to be cleaning the streets up, you know, and the job's not being done.
Right, so we have a first and a second to prepare a resolution to list, you know, the things that we have concerns about. And then, in the meantime, Paul, you're going to call to find out if we can get somebody out here right away to take care of those
the safety issues, I'll talk. I'll get
That'll
to.
be, yeah.
You mentioned, while you have them, that there are other maintenance problems that they're very concerned with, and there's going to be a resolution forthcoming.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
There were other things, other vast projects that went on at the schools. There were 2 classrooms that needed to be, the floors needed to be done, was that's in the township where they were working on the building, it's almost gone, parking lots being completed. There's an unknown couple of things that don't know, some school signs that don't know, and that's the little day. I don't know whether they know it. We have a township's got a lot of problems properties that just sitting here, it does us no, serves us no good at all. In particular, there's one on First Avenue, according to First and then around, which is going. I believe that Mr. Duncan was here, or we wired up First and Rock. And presumably it was the appraisal done, came out at $59,000.
56.
What do you say, 59?
This is the one that I had the conflict on because his father is a client of mine in Ocean City, so I really can't comment on it, but the clerk's office just indicated that, yes, that's what happened.
Yes.
I looked at it, it's a lot. I mean, we talk about the county not doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're not going to jump in. We got 42 trees that are ready to come down. Vegetation is showing on the street. The man wants to buy it so he can head to his house. Possible revenue for us. But we have to look at this appraisal, whether it was the right one, was not right, who did it, how they come up with $59,000. Not only that, now we're going to run here, we're going to spend $700 to remove some of the trees that are ready to fall down. They ain't clean up a lot too. We got to look into this ourselves too.
Well, we used the appraiser was the one hired by the township, Mr. Bonato, and
Unfortunately,
That's the-
one of the comparable sales that he used was the property that Mr. Duncan bought. Because they're almost similar in size, you know, he kind of used that property as a comparable sale. And that's what, you know, made it much higher in value because, in Beasley's point, that's a similar sized lot. So
It's impossible to hold over, I understand that, but, you know, we have it 50 by 100 sitting between two houses that it's sitting here, we're not going to maintain it. The guy wants to have it himself, if not the whole thing, needs to half of it. Give him half and let the other neighbor have the other half. Get it off my tax map. The value's going to go up, which means the taxable rate is going to increase a little bit.
I understand, but the appraiser came back with that value, and
it's unfortunate that it came back so high, but it is, that's what it is.
Is that
And
property
that's-
in a different ownership than anybody adjacent to it?
which property?
The property that Tom's talking about. Who owns
This is
it?
the one behind.
Mr. Duncan?
They redid, is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, he owns
The
it.
vacant piece.
The township vacant piece?
Is that the township owns it?
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about a township-owned piece of property that, you know, was requested to purchase from the township, and when the appraisal came back, it came back at almost the same price that he bought for his buildable lot.
Because there's 50 by 100 lots, there's a number of homes that are built on that, in that area.
And he bought a lot and is building a house on a very similar sized lot, so that's where the appraisal came back, unlike some of the, I'll say, the 25 or 50 by 100 foot lots that are out in some of the other areas of the township that don't have that same characteristic.
Well, then again, if it is a buildable lot, and it's $59,000, you sell it, and, you know, put it on the market, sell it, get rid of it. And then it's going to be done.
Well, the only issue with that is,
Insurance.
well, the only issue with that is if you sell it and you build, somebody builds a home and you got 3 or 4 kids in there,
Well,
that,
not if we make it a deed restricted at 55 and older. We are, if not we buy it, we can do that. Restrict the deed and sell it.
In general, not talking about this transaction, but in general, the township committee historically has not sold residential lots for development while they could gender immediate cash. 2 children at Ocean City High School is over $30,000 a year. The taxes would never justify that, so that has not happened. When we've sold adjacent property, we've required them to merge it with their existing lot, and that it cannot be built on. I don't know the specifics of this. Again, I have a conflict. I suggest that if you want legal guidance as to what your options are, perhaps you put it on a next agenda, and you have Mr. Briggs, I believe, was the conflict attorney that dealt with it, so you can get your options as to what can or can't be done.
Then I can, that's the way we should go. Because I don't think we make that deed restricted to 55 and older.
I can't, here's the thing, Tony, for this, it's not appropriate for me to comment on this application, because, as I said, I've represented his father, and it really wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on it.
right, so, but,
Put on the next agenda.
yeah, put it as new business for the next agenda.
We should
And
realize-
ask Mr. Briggs if he can come in as well.
And we should look at other projects that we have that's similar. If they're there, we can make some money out of it, get rid of it.
As long as it's
People
deep.
should know that. There's no sense keeping it. We have to maintain it, ensure it.
That, I'm okay with that as long as
Let's
there's that.
identify what we have, where they are, get them appraised, and it's sell. And especially if we can have a dealer sticker to a 55 and older, it's a, you go, to move in.
Okay,
So I have.
all right, Mr. Butler.
Not your report, sir.
All right, I have two things. One, as you know, we are looking to have someone be appointed to the planning board. We had a resignation in that particular slot, has to be an employee. And we had one of our employees put an interest in, and I was certainly willing to appoint that person, but then after talking with Dan, apparently the statute says that this person has to be in a supervisory role.
But no, it has to be, the statute says officer. And it's the first time we were really asked, because frankly, I think there have been municipal appointments in prior years that were not technically officers. And I consulted with the planning and zoning attorney, and I did some research, and officers generally meant, it's interpreted broadly, but it should be someone that has an official title, either as a municipal title by statute or a supervisory title. If you have a rank and file employee that is a low-level employee, I don't think that means, that's the intent of the municipal appointment for.
Well, I really felt that this person would help with the,
I mean, recall, but isn't the person resigning, it's not a supervisor.
no. The current person that was in there wasn't supervisor either. So we,
That's my question.
right, well,
That's what I was alluding to.
That's what I said,
Because
as well.
when I was asked the question, I said, the person this individual is replacing probably didn't qualify either. And what happens is, it would be fine if nobody has a controversial application, but in a controversial application, if that vote made a difference, it could disqualify the vote, and it could be a difficult situation. And frankly, my legal advice is, if you have an officer, you should put an officer.
Right, but we have
And
someone
that's the same as
willing
Mr.
to-
Marcolongo's advice as well.
Right, but we do have an individual that's willing to step up and serve, so we will ask again to see if anybody falls under the qualifications. If not, I mean, I was certainly willing to appoint this person, from the beginning, so I realize what you just said, but, I mean, is it not better to have someone serve than to leave the position vacant?
All I'm telling you is that it could be a basis to challenge the action of the board if it's a determining factor in an application.
Well, let me ask something else. Do we need a replacement? Do we have enough members on the board?
Well,
Which I believe that we do.
Well, we have enough members, but we haven't had a great turnout the last couple of meetings.
and,
No, because you don't have, both. No, it was not much on the agenda.
In normal circumstances, when you're down one, it doesn't really have a problem. The problem that you can have is if we had ended up in very unusual circumstances where you get like a de-annexation type thing that is, or you're going through a master plan review, that's when it gets difficult and you don't have enough members sometimes.
right. So,
Well, there's always a glitch.
we don't, I mean, I don't feel the need to appoint somebody. I was very interested in appointing this individual, and I'm trying to be fair to the person without saying the name, until I had a conversation with Dan, and it has, again, no bearing on my decision, because I would still feel comfortable appointing him. I'm just trying to follow the statutory requirement. So we'll ask again, and then we'll come back, but if we can't find someone, and it doesn't appear that we need to appoint somebody right away, we certainly can revisit this, because the appointment is usually done at the reorganization in January anyway, so.
I mean, I don't foresee any, foreseeable future where we're going to need it, so that's what we need.
Okay.
That will give you extra time to source an individual.
Okay. So then, the only other thing I wanted to bring up is, it's been a very interesting year at the beach with the lifeguards. They've had a number of, we've had a couple problems. One, we've had a lot of high tides and rip currents that have continued to make the erosion problem in the north end of Strathmere worse. And compounding that, we've had a number of rescues for the swimmers and individuals that the lifeguards have to take care of. On Saturday, a boat capsized in the inlet, and 6 individuals were rescued by our lifeguards using the personal watercraft. One individual, I think, had some abdominal pain. Nobody really had any serious injuries, but it could have been a real problem. And I guess what I'm saying is now with another pending, whatever it's going to turn out to be, tropical storm or hurricane, it's not going to hit the coast but be off the coast. We're already saying that there could be significant rip currents and higher tide. So we really need to stay focused as to what's going on in the north end. And I would certainly recommend anybody that's swimming to swim by a lifeguard on protected beaches and then follow their guidance, because we've had some real issues this year, and there's been some rescues even with surfers that have been pulled out much further than they had anticipated, with their boards and trying to help them get back in. So that's all I have, and I guess at this time we'll ask Scott to come up, and we're going to present him a proclamation from the township. Scott, would you come up? And let me read this resolution that all the committeemen signed. It says, Scott Hogan of Troop 79, Seaville, New Jersey, has recently achieved the designation of Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America. The Township of Upper wishes to acknowledge this outstanding accomplishment. That resolved that the Township Committee extends its sincere congratulations to Scott on the occasion of his receiving the designation of Eagle Scout, and commends him for his outstanding accomplishment in the completion of his Eagle Scout project, consisting of construction by Scott and his fellow Scouts of 11 wood dock nesting boxes. Materials and tools were purchased with donations received through fundraising efforts, and 5 of the boxes were transported by canoes and placed in the Tuckahoe and Beaver Swamp wildlife reservation areas. The remaining boxes were donated to a local Ducks Unlimited organization to replace deteriorated boxes and provide new places for the ducks to nest. Township Committee extends its sincere congratulations and best wishes to Scott's parents, family, and friends on this happy occasion, and that the Township Committee also extends its congratulations and appreciation to the Scoutmasters and others who give so freely and generously of their time for the benefit of our youth. So, Scott, that is really a great honor to receive your Eagle Scout. We have been very fortunate in this township to have a number of young men achieve Eagle Scout, and all of their projects have significantly had a very positive impact on the township, as this one has. Certainly, the one thing that we take pride on in the township is that over 40% of the township is dedicated to open space. And I think there are very few municipalities in the state that can say that, let alone even locally. So what you've done is certainly will help the migration of some of the shorebirds and the wood ducks, and certainly can continue to be an asset to the wildlife that we are very fortunate to have in our community. So congratulations. It's a great honor to have an Eagle Scout. Come on up here so we can get you in the newspaper with a picture. Up here, come on. I always say this, I've been well versed that only 2% of all the Boy Scouts ever attain the rank of Eagle Scout. So it's a great accomplishment, and it takes a lot of dedication and time to get there. So what he's accomplished is a great thing, and hopefully one day you'll be up here as an elected official, or maybe even have higher ambitions, because I know a lot of the presidents have achieved Eagle Scout as well. So congratulations again. So you're welcome to stay, or you're also welcome to depart and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. Okay. All right, Barbara, let's work on the resolutions, please.
Okay. Item number 2 on the agenda, congratulating the Upper Township Little League 9 to 10-year-old All-Star team on becoming the 2014 Eastern Regional Champions.
Move the resolution. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 3, congratulating the Ocean City Upper Township Little League 11 to 12-year-old All-Star Team on becoming the New Jersey Section 4 champions.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 4, congratulating employee David Pinello of the Upper Township Department of Public Works for his winning entry in the Upper Township Safety Award Program for the fourth quarter of 2014.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara? Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes. Now, I just want to take a second because my computer got a little stuck here. We will be asking the 9 and 10-year-olds and 11 and 12 to come before the Township Committee. They certainly really went through an incredible season, and I really look forward to having them here so that we can congratulate them. So we'll certainly arrange to have a future date for them to be here so that we can, give them all the kudos that they so deserve.
Item number 5, authorizing the mayor and township clerk to sign a contract with Shore Veterinary and Animal Control Services for animal control services in Upper Township.
Move the resolution.
Second.
And this memorializes the discussion that we had at the last meeting, so would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 6, appointment of Ansel Grimm and Aaron and James G. Aaron Esquire to act as special legal counsel.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 7, appointing the 2014 season beach patrol. This
Move the
just
resolution.
Second.
And I'm recused from this, please, so would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Mayor Palumbo is abstaining. Motion is carried with 4 in favor. Item number 8, redeeming lien and canceling taxes on exempt property, Block 595, Lots 20 and 21.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 9, certification of cost for abatement of nuisance on Block 26, Lot 1, Block 303, Lot 1, Block 348, Lot 27, Block 449, Lot 5, Block 455, Lot 16, Block 455, Lot 33, Block 474, Lot 1.01, and Block 730, Lot 21.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on this?
Yeah, I think we may want to revisit the calculations that we used in determining the cost. Maybe table this until the next meeting.
When you asked the question before the meeting, I did have a chance, I didn't have, because we started the meeting, I didn't have a chance to talk about it, but Barbara may have a further explanation as to, I guess, the divergence on some of those, so she might be able to tell you some of the background.
The Public Works manager, supervisor did certify the costs, which calculated the employee's salary, which I understand from Barbara that that salary also figured in the cost of insurance and benefits, and also the cost of the equipment was also factored into that.
Barbara, the main question was, there was one charge of $19, maybe you could explain that one?
That was actually, it was, with all the calculations figured in, was $38 an hour for that property, and it took the employee about 30 minutes to cut the grass there.
Okay, so, but,
Yes.
So the question, maybe we should have a warrant amendment if we're going to do it.
well, I think that's the discussion, like, because it may have taken a half hour to the property, but by the time you stage and bring the equipment over that needed to be done and everything else, I mean, it had to take an hour, so.
Well, this particular property is located approximately 1 block from the Public Works garage. So,
Let me, would this be a situation in which we want to come up with some type of fee schedule to do these tasks?
The statute and the ordinance say the cost thereof, and the best way to determine that is what it costs us to do it. It doesn't say what your fee is for it from a fee schedule. So this is the most defensible way. For example, one obviously took significant amount of time because it's over $200. It was a different situation. This one just happened to be a block away from the Public Works yard, and it was 2 strips, I think you said, that he had to cut?
like 2 strips of grass. I mean, it took him a half an hour, 30 minutes by the time he unloaded, cut the
They had
grass.
the grant also.
Yes,
Correct.
yes, all that was figured in.
Now, if you want further explanation, you can. My understanding is that's the one that stuck out, that there were the questions.
Yeah, I thought, to be honest with you, several of them were on the low side, based on the fact that we had to go out there. I'm sure we were out there with more than one person. And also looking at the stem time involved, it seemed a little lean.
Well, it's up to you. You can table it, just so you know the procedure here. This is done so that those costs can be charged back against the taxes for those properties. It's my understanding that all of them are probably in some form of foreclosure.
And typically, it would have just been one person that went out. It was for one person, I mean, one laborer, a mower, a truck and a trailer.
Not a laborer,
Well,
not a laborer, but
Well, based on.
whatever rate.
The driving time is.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, based on our current, and I realize the one may have been around the corner or whatever, but there's still staging that's involved.
Right.
And whether it's loading whatever the equipment they needed to put on a trailer and everything else. So,
1 hour
I guess,
time, no problem.
that's gonna be my question. Does our ordinance allow us to put them, to?
It's whatever you consider your reasonable cost. Now, you break it down, if it ever got into court, it would be argued, was that reasonable cost of what that job was? And if you could prove that's reasonable cost, then you would, it would be upheld. In this instance, it's a little difficult now because we just had a public discussion that the clerk's office and apparently the Public Works thinks that $19 on that one lot was reasonable. So if you're going to try and raise it, you better have good reason to show that this discussion's not accurate.
So leave this alone and then take this into future discussion.
I think you're right, Opie. I think maybe we ought to look to how we do this in the future. And Dan, the question to you would be, by ordinance, could we set minimum fees?
I don't think so, because I think it's whatever your cost is. It's not what your fees you charge, it's what your cost is.
What we need
That's
to
what.
do is come up with an accurate formula for how.
And maybe we need a report from Public Works as to what their formula is and what's included in it, and you can explain it.
We can review.
And that way, you can look at that formula and say, okay, that makes sense, or no, we think, we'll talk to our engineer to see for manpower utilization, is that accurate? Because we've done it with other contracts where we, for example, fleet maintenance, where we have those calculations entered into. So perhaps that's probably the best thing to do.
just so the committee's aware also, I was corresponding with the Public Works Supervisor on different rates of salaries for certain employees. He would email me and ask what the rate of salary was for certain employees. So, he was questioning certain employees being out on the property and.
So it appears that all that's being taken into consideration except for probably the traveling time for kind of thing.
I mean, there was, how it was explained to me, there was consideration for maintenance, maintaining the equipment and the rental of one piece of equipment, along with the hourly wage.
Except possibly not considering the time it takes from the yard, or, first yard to the actual.
Yeah, I don't know if time was factored into it,
So I think
but,
that's the thing we have to read.
I can't.
And that would work reasonably within the ordinance we have in place anyway. 'cause
It's really just, you have to justify your costs. And the question of the Township Committee, if I understand you correctly, is, are we getting all of our costs?
Right.
That's it. It's as simple as that. And I think it's up to you. This seems to be a relatively minor amount. If you want to table it, you can. It's going to be difficult, given the public nature of the discussion, to change it. But in any event, perhaps we get his
Well, we have
method,
we have
and we
a
have a
first and
breakdown.
second, so before we table it, if you're okay, Mr. Coggins, let's take the vote, and then, we can use this as an example for future opportunities, so.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 10, partnering with the Upper Township School District for the joint purchase of office supplies and paper.
Move for resolution.
Second.
So this is a shared kind of opportunity that we've been doing this in the past with them, right, Barbara?
Yes, for quite a few years.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 11, authorizing the award of a contract with McCarthy Tire and Automotive Centers for automotive parts and supplies.
Move the resolution.
Second?
Barbara, my understanding, the reason this is on here, because it's going over the
The pay-to-play
threshold.
That's
right.
correct.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 12, rejecting all bids received for the furnishing and installation of security equipment for Upper Township and authorizing the township to re-advertise for bids.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Just to follow up the last meeting's conversation, I did speak to Barbara. The lowest bid did exceed her cost estimate and certified appropriation for the project. There was some confusion. I think Paul cleared it up that there was no bid estimate or the project estimate from his office. And these are legitimate reasons to reject all bids and hopefully restructure the specs so that we get more people bidding and get all of the work authorized and better prices.
When I talked to several people that, took out the bid specification but did not respond to the bids, a common theme was, remember we had three components to the bid, the CCTV, security alarm, and fire alarm. Many of the vendors don't perform the fire alarm service end of it as part of their business, and they felt that since if they didn't respond and be able to put a price in for that, that they would have been rejected for the bid, so they didn't submit a bid. So I think I had that from at least three of the vendors, so considering that, that'd be another reason that, we're probably going to we're also going to separate out the bids, do the security and the CCTV as one bid, do the fire alarm as a separate bid, and then hopefully we'll have some more competitive bids on to compare with.
Would the fire alarm component be under the bid threshold? It seems like a small add-on to
Depends on, a lot of it is dependent on the design and what the contractor feels that needs to be done. So that's, it may be, but we'll have to look at that and evaluate that when we get the bids in.
We do have to be careful with it, though, because even though one aspect of the bid may be under the bid threshold, you have to look at it as an entire project.
And if we started out that way, it might have been doable, but the problem is you can't avoid the bidding laws by breaking up projects. So we're not breaking up this project to avoid the bidding laws, we're breaking up this project to get more competitive bids. Right, so we may to be on legal safe ground, you may want to bid that section anyway.
Okay.
So that nobody says you're trying to pull it out and give it to a favorite son or something.
Now, if we bid it another time and we got no respondents at that time, then we'd be able to look at, talk to the auditor, look at some purchasing options, and we may be able to do something at that point after two bids where we
Right.
didn't receive a bid.
Right. After two bids, then you can negotiate prices.
Okay, so we have a first and second?
Yes.
Would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 13, under ordinances, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 12, 2014, an ordinance vacating the paper street known as Public Alley between Prescott Avenue and Otis Avenue within Block 821 in the Township of Upper, County of Bateman, in the state of New Jersey.
Okay, so this is an introduction of an ordinance, so there will be no public hearing on this at this time. So when someone makes a motion, what would be the date that
Would
we,
be September 22nd for the public hearing.
okay,
I'll make a motion.
with the public hearing, and for adoption September
22nd.
22nd?
Second.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 14, under new business, Ducks Unlimited New Jersey State Committee requests to hold a raffle at the Seaville Fire Hall on October 25th, 2014.
Move the group.
Second. I'm just checking to see if there's any boxes on it. No, I'm just kidding. Please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 15, Upper Township Rescue Squad requests to hold a trunk or treat fundraiser at Amanda's Field on October 21st, 2014, with a rain date of October 22nd, 2014.
Move to approve. Second.
And I guess my only thing is on this, just so I'm clear, because they're sponsoring something like this, I have no problem. I think it's a great idea. But do we have any, like, things with insurance, what we could be covered?
We're covered.
The clerk's office covers all that.
Yes.
They're a nonprofit, not to be confused with Division of EMS, but they should probably have all that in place before any of this occurs.
Okay. Only
It is in
because you
place,
just never know if something should happen. Okay. Please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 16, under discussion, is the field lighting at Amanda's Field.
Okay, Hobie, would you like to discuss this?
Right now, Paul got prices from the co-op, and Paul, there's no other bids, you didn't go out for any other bids?
I'm still waiting to hear back from some other vendors to see if they're on a national co-op or to get their budget quotes to do the final paperwork. But the first step is to apply to that, it's called KPN, the Keystone Purchasing Network, and that would be the first step in that process. But there's other processes as part of buying off the national co-op that we have to still do, and we're in the process of
To
completing.
give the committee a background, the co-ops are similar to the state contract. In other words, they're a group that gets together and sets uniform prices, and sometimes they're nationally, often. And there's a
All for local entities.
Right, for municipalities and things. And what happens is, we have to follow certain procedures in order to be authorized to be on that co-op through Department of Community Affairs. And my understanding is why it's on the agenda is to be able to utilize, if we want to go forward with a co-op purchase, you have to authorize
We have to
the purchasing
join the co-op
department to
first.
join the co-op. It doesn't cost us anything, it's just
Correct.
procedures that Barbara's office has to go through.
If we join the co-op, are we locked into purchasing?
No.
No.
No,
So we could still go out to bid?
right. If we join the co-op,
Decide to light the field.
and we could take advantage, there may be other items in that co-op that they have to offer that we could take advantage of purchasing at another
I guess
time.
My concern is what is our time frame?
It doesn't matter, we can join and we either purchase from them or we don't purchase from them.
Without getting bids, how do we know?
Well, that's what we have to,
We approved, we got the bid on this on March 27th, we're now heading into September, and we don't have any bids.
that's part of the process of this, is we have to justify that. So by next meeting, we'll have the justification of the cost savings of using this co-op as opposed to bidding.
And the prices you have come up with, that was based on what you got from the co-op, or was that what you just forwarded me?
Well, that'll be the base cost, and if the other quotes that I get aren't, doesn't show us cost savings, then we would go out to bid.
That's one,
Again, my concern is time frame. Here we are, we're 5 months past now, no bids, I've got to get these in, put the rounds, get freezes on us, and get these fields ready. And if it takes us another 3 months, I'll never have these fields ready for September, for spring ball. And I guess I'm not sure why, if this was approved, we got the bid on the 27th of March, and here we are, the nth hour again, and there's no bids.
do we have a cost that would, it's less going to cost?
We have a quote from the co-op of what the cost would be. It's about $195,000.
Right now, we don't have enough money to lay 2 fields because we've waited all these years to do it, and the original bid was a lot lower.
What does it include, the lights?
The lights.
Hardware, and installation?
Not installation.
Installation.
We discussed it during the bond that we were going to install them with our own workforce, like we did at Caldwell Park.
A company reached out to me, Paul White, that's what it was, cost light.
I was waiting I've put a call into their service rep and they haven't called me back.
I have the paperwork ready, it shouldn't be much longer, but next meeting I should have it in there, the date. I believe they're going to be much lower than that.
They were cheaper the last time we bid.
Right, so to answer Mr. Young's question, if we join this co-op, which will give us, from what you're saying, Robin, more opportunities than just lighting, there's other things that we could potentially consider purchasing if there's needs for the township, for other things.
There's no harm in joining the co-op. That's just the first step. There are other steps that you have to follow.
Correct if I'm wrong, or didn't the township have that kind of agreement already?
We have joined 2 other co-ops, but there are a lot of national co-ops out there. The other 2 co-ops that we've previously joined do not offer the sports lighting equipment that we need.
So when
This
we
one
bought
does.
the grass cutter and everything, that was through a co-op, so it's
Correct.
pretty simple.
Correct.
So Paul, we need to put a drop-down date that we need to have information by. So, I mean, I guess we can give a little wiggle room, so I'm not sure that you'll be prepared for 2 weeks, although I'd like to say, can we do it in 2 weeks? But at the latest, I would say September 22nd, but I'd like to see if we can do something in 2
I'll be able to
weeks.
have either the cost comparisons to either justify that this co-op would show cost savings, or the bids will be out on the street for an award.
Is there a reason they weren't coming before? I'm just curious.
Based on some of the getting back and forth with the technical specs, and by the time that we got done with the technical specs, one of the manufacturers had discussed this
I understand my
co-op.
position. We talked over a month ago, and you said you would have everything ready to come before committee. I told the baseball organization it was coming before committee, and now here we are again, and nothing's still ready for committee.
Now,
I
what's
live by
going
my
on?
plan because of it. And I just, again, I feel like I'm being put on the back burner here with recreation,
Right.
so.
So in an effort to address this, put this on the agenda for unfinished business, and let's hope that we can close it.
But we would
We're
also,
going to have a motion to join the co-op though, right?
Co-op as well.
That was the motion.
Yeah.
All right. So you made a motion to join the co-op?
A second.
Would you call the roll, please, and then we'll address it.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes,
Motion is carried.
go ahead.
I talked to Paul today also, to try to waylay some of the cost factor. We have the 4 lights on the Little League field at Codwell now. I want to try to do an analysis, how many lights are really required there for practice for football that we leave. There's a potential to take 2 to 3 of those poles down. And that would leave us 1 pole short for the Little League facility here. So right now, we're well over $200,000 cost factor to do 2 fields. And so I have to find a way to eliminate some of the cost. So we're going to take a look at that, and I'm also going to meet with Roy out there tomorrow. The problem is, again, we can't move forward with correcting things on that field until the poles are put in. We can't grade, we can't do anything out there. And we're heading into, cold weather again, we're not going to be able to get it done again. So if we're going to do this, it has to be expedited. Or we might as well just put it on the back burner and take our punishments with the organizations that are expecting us to do this.
Right. Before we get to that point, let's see what we come up with in the next 2 weeks. But in the meantime, if you think you can talk to Roy about pursuing the other thing, I don't know how difficult it is to remove poles that are there in place and everything else. but-
the bigger concern would be matching up the lighting that if you don't take the full sets of lights for the field and take them, the manufacturers aren't going to guarantee the light levels on the field.
They're two different fields, though. I mean,
Yeah, but.
And I mean, that's the whole problem.
That's one will count is that you probably won't even be able to use those lights because you have to have one. This company that reached out, they're gonna do the whole thing.
that's fine, I'm just, again, you know, we're working on the whole conversation with this has been finances.
Well,
So-
so if you're mixing, you're mixing things, it might not work with what, the company might be working.
I just thought it's something we should look at.
Hold off on that too.
We should.
We have the cost and then we see which way to go.
That's fine. I'm just looking to move it along.
Okay, so you'll put that under unfinished business,
Yes, sir.
okay? Would someone like to make a motion to pay the bills?
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated into the full minutes of this meeting.
Second, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Pockett?
Yes.
Mr. Nacero?
Yes,
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
There are 4 reports from the municipal departments, tax collector, finance, and the 2 Upper Township Green Team reports that Paul had discussed earlier. They will be available upon request tomorrow at the Township Clerk's office, but I'd like to make a motion to accept these reports from the municipal departments. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Pockett?
Yes.
Mr. Nacero?
yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
So with this, we've reached the time where we'll open it up to the public, and if anyone would like to address the Township Committee, we'd ask that you come up, state your name and your address, and before asking your question or giving your thoughts to the Township Committee. So would anyone like to come up at this time?
Natalie Neese, 759 Route 50. I was wondering, well, I see that you have it in for closed session, but I'm wondering what the status is on the drug matter. And also, I think that, Mr. Palumbo, you're probably the only one that's on the board, because that's a matter that's been going on for, 8 years now?
Well, you're allowed to say...
No, we can, it's
Yeah, I mean,
public
we
knowledge
had a
what
very
happened.
positive outcome.
The Health Division held for the township. I want to discuss in closed session the township because it's still under the time period for appeal. It's been 9 years. Numerous courts have made decisions. All of them have been in favor of the township. And this last one was the appellate division, and perhaps might be the last.
And it was a unanimous decision by the appellate court, by the way.
Well, how do you bring the rest of the board up to date on, what was going on with...
We have discussions about it.
There was an employee that was let go.
They know because when they come on, I brief them on ongoing litigation, whatever matters we have, that's done privately, and then when the matters come up in various stages of litigation, there's closed session discussions, and I give them a history and a briefing. So they...
And all of our information is
Board members know.
posted on a SkyDrive that we all have an opportunity to look from time to time to catch up on things, so.
Okay, well, I was one person from the public that took an interest in that. I don't think there were a whole lot of people. But some years ago, I think I made a request to find out the cost that the township paid. And I think we were somewhere at $500,000.
I don't think it's that high, but it's a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, and I think at one point I read in the paper that, the Grubs were willing to settle for something like about that amount of money. So-
There were other factors involved with it. And again, I don't think it's fair
Because
to
it's still
discuss.
during the appeal period, I wouldn't really discuss any specifics, but suffice it to say, the comments you just made are not accurate,
Right.
both in what the Grubs wanted to settle for and what the costs were of litigation.
Okay, well, I just remember reading something in the paper about it, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And,
It's been expensive litigation. As I said, it was 9 years, and every court, and there have been at least a half a dozen, if not more, courts that have dealt with this, and hearings, has found for the township.
okay, and then I feel the same way about the Yank Sandstone matter in Strathmere that has been going on for, at least 6 years now.
That is approximately 6 years, and that was a beach lot condemnation that we would not have beach replenishment had we not gone through those condemnations.
And that's several $100,000 also that Township.
There's been a lot of costs involved in the last 2 years, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, as somebody from the community, I look at stuff like that, and, you know, I would ask for the land planner, Franny Nielsen, architect, to look into our town centers to help develop them. And, I mean, I think it's becoming crucial now. I think it's unfair that we only looked at Marmora. I personally don't like what happened in Marmora, but we have other town centers that were created, and I think that, you know, something needs to be done about it before you push this gas transmission line through. And, you know, I don't know, you know, what it would cost to hire him, but, I mean, you spent, what, $50,000 for a special tax map, to redo the tax maps?
That was what the state requested of us.
Because of some deficiencies, obviously.
I think they were looking for some revisions on things that have occurred, and, you know, I mean, ultimately, at some point down the line, we'll probably have to invest in making it digital. So, and that's a substantial amount of money, but we were able to satisfy what the state was looking for with that $50,000 investment this time. But to switch over digital, it was 200 and, like, major amounts of money, so, but ultimately, that's maybe what the state will require. I mean, we're following the statutory requirements.
But does the state require that you have digital?
Well, they're leaning towards it, but they don't require it at this
They don't
point.
require it, because what I read.
There are many towns that have done it.
Right, but I read that Paul Dietrich was the one that was pushing for the digital. I mean, I specifically remember seeing that.
I think
Proactive, yes.
Paul, that's a good point, that's a good way of putting it. I think Paul was giving us options to consider as we go through this process. And as Mr. Insera just said, it was a proactive presentation to say, okay, if we're not doing it now, it's something we'll probably ultimately have to do in the future.
Doing 150,000, do away with 100,000, so we're doing that.
Well, I mean, I still have a concern about that, because my subdivision is not reported accurately, and I know I asked a couple of years ago at least about having that corrected, and in talking to Mr. Dietrich, I understand that that wasn't even included in
It was.
That's not the work.
It was actually
That's contract.
It was actually last September. I had the list in my office ready to go up to the surveyor, and I told you this the last time, that once the maps are approved for the revaluation, for the work that's been ongoing, once that has been signed off by the state, then we will be making those corrections, and your map correction is one of the first ones that'll go into that batch of regular revisions that go up to the surveyor.
Okay. The last meeting, I was asking about the transmission pipeline, and I guess it was admitted that it is a 24-inch diameter pipe, and I believed it to be metal, and Mr. Dietrich said it was plastic, and I think Mr. Palumbo, you said something about like getting more information. I'm wondering what the committee has done to get any more information, because you are going to take a vote on whether you make an easement ordinance for the South Jersey Gas, from my understanding. And I have a lot of people talking to me and asking me about the potential impact radius and how it could affect their properties with that line running down 631, down Highway 50. And I mean, from what I read, it's like 346 feet that it could encompass, and metal pipes have welds, metal pipes leak, metal pipes corrode. They can explode, and they can set off secondary fires. And, you know, if it goes through down 631, it's going to pass our schools, our township hall, our library, our rescue squad, and a lot of properties. And I'm just wondering, what y'all have found out.
It's a metal pipe with a coating externally to protect from corrosion. Right now, we have an existing pipe, about 20-inch pipe,
Yes.
that's about 50 years old,
I don't know the exact date.
about 50 plus years old. That event itself is something ready to happen. There are a couple of places that we don't even know where it's at. I'd rather have a new pipe run through the township, if we're gonna get one, than have an existing one. That's already 50 years old. Eliminating that. If the existing pipeline, for whatever reason, should be disrupted or whatever, Kingston County, the whole county, will have no gas for the following couple of years, if not longer.
But isn't it true that that transmission line is carrying gas to the BLM England Rockland plant to generate electricity? It has
That's
nothing
also
to
true, because
do
it will
with
supply-
supplying
it will
natural gas to
supply-
any households?
But it will supply, yes, the farm.
And it's because the Ocean County nuclear plant is closing in
It's
2019?
still don't know about that, that could be one of the reasons too. It will supply existing farm, yes. However, it's going to do the county also. It's not just the farm going to benefit from that, the whole county will benefit from that.
But it's going to endanger, our entire community with the
There's
potential
always a
impact of
danger to
this.
everything that we do. There's a danger to nothing more than trying to car. There's always a danger to everything we do. However, would you rather have the existing pipeline that's there for 50 years or better, that something can happen very easily now, than having a brand new pipeline that will last 50 years or better? Given the option, I'd rather have a new gas line coming through than that put up with the existing one.
I think that you're attempting to compare apples with oranges. That pipeline that's existing is going to be repaired, and it goes from Tuckahoe down Wildwood Way. It has nothing to do with this transmission line. And yeah, it is old, and
Well, the pumping part of it, Paul, it's to also help for reliability with the loop, right? Isn't that part of it?
It's all part of the, that's why the BPU approved it.
So,
It will reduce the pollution that we have. It will give us a safer way to transmit gas from point A to point B.
well, also, if you give them the easement, it's going to go in between the ball fields and Tuckahoe, and obviously, it's going to be fenced, electrified fencing to keep people out of it.
No.
No.
No?
The one on Route 50 in Mays Landing is not, or Nestle Manor is not electrified.
Well, how would they keep people out of this valving station?
A fence,
A fence?
just like that one.
A fence that, kids could crawl over? Crawl up? I mean, like digital signs on 49?
now you're comparing apples to tomatoes.
I know.
That was,
But I mean, from my understanding, it's going to be a fence and it's going to be electrified. And furthermore, metal
No.
pipes.
It's not going to be electrified.
well, I don't know where you're getting the electrified part of it, because it's my understanding they were going to secure it, and, but look, they're not going to put themselves at risk either. They're going to make sure that whatever apparatus, fence, whatever you want to call it, that they're going to put up for security to prevent people from getting in there is going to work, because they are not going to put themselves at risk. That's just not going to happen.
Well, I'm not sure that I agree with you.
Oh,
Because
you-
from what
you-
I read, there's only 52 inspectors across the entire country, and there's 2.5 million miles of pipeline, and there's no way that they could possibly check all these pipelines.
That's why South Jersey Gas does their own inspections.
Well, I've also talked to South Jersey Gas, and I mean, I just have a real problem with it. I mean, I think that you're going to jeopardize a good bit of the community by doing this. And I really think that you ought to, look into it and think real hard before you do that ordinance to allow them to have an easement to go in there. I mean, new transmission lines, insurance companies are looking at them differently. It's going to make insurance rate goes up. It conducts electrical current. It can affect animals, human beings, and there are accidents. So So, I mean, I was really wondering, who on this board, like, took time to look into it.
We have been following the procedures, we have been following a lot of conversations. Any time that someone's opposed to it, no matter what I or any of the committee people say, it's not an answer that anyone accepts anyway. So, we feel, listen, we are not here to put anybody in harm's way. But I will tell you that the majority of the people that I speak with are in support of working to make that biological plant stay open, at least in the township.
But the majority of the people I've talked to, they've been given the idea that this is going to be a household line that they can hook up to, and that natural gas is going to be cheaper than propane, and that is not at all.
It's going to bring gas into the community. Before they hook up to it, the pressure will be stepped down at various stations, at various things like the city gate that they're going to put in Tuckahoe. It's very likely that'll become a pressure step-down station if they want to take a distribution line on it.
Right now, there's gas all through Moore, Stagecoach Road, everywhere else. It comes off of that line that goes down Tuckahoe and Mount Pleasant Road.
Well, that was my other concern at the last meeting, was like, are you making a utility corridor?
Our Main Street, what?
A utility corridor. And I mean, again, it comes back to, I think that you need the land planner to come in and look at the town centers, because if you can develop the town centers, you're going to create jobs, and it'll be more desirable for the people that live here, rather than having to drive 40 minutes to a mall or to a Walmart or these other places. I mean, you could have other,
The town center is already being in place, it's just a matter of getting the right people to come in and develop it. We have the town center in Water, we have one down at 50, there's one down 9 by Acme, so we have town centers around. We just don't let the people come in and develop, not this one, you can't really do this. It's not totally in place.
It seems to me that this board does not want the impact on the schools, and you don't want the families coming in, you don't want low income, and as far as people...
That is not an accurate statement at all.
That's what I've heard over
Well,
the years.
that's what you hear, but that's not what's happened here. We've developed a plan for affordable housing as per the requirement, and in fact, if the governor had signed what was passed in both the House and legislature, we would have ample. Listen, do you know of any other communities that have the mobile home parks that we have? No. We offer a lot of affordable housing in this township already.
Are we delinquent housing units to the state?
Well, we are, because we haven't gotten credit for existing properties that are already in place.
Over 300?
Depends upon what.
Depends on what the
laws you
formula is,
look at,
'cause we don't know exactly what it is
proposals
at
that
this
were
point.
made. Some were delinquent, some were not.
But still, I mean, if you brought in a land planner and you looked at the town centers and you developed them...
We've done
We
that.
have that, it's already in place.
We've been doing that for over 10 years.
Now we have to find somebody that wants to develop there.
We've got vacant retail space in some of our town centers.
I know, and because of what you did in Marmora, now Seaville is becoming vacant.
Right, well, essentially what that means is that there aren't any people who would be taking that retail space who are willing to make the investment based on the population.
Right.
So that's, bringing in a land planner is not going to change some of that reality.
I disagree with you, because I worked with land planners in the past.
All right, well,
That, in fact, we're on private septic, we don't have sewers here. And that really prohibits almost all big businesses from coming in here.
I think we have a lot of opportunity in the township, and I just really wish that you all would look long and hard at bringing
We
in...
have town centers in place already, we just came to one, and somebody say, come in and want this.
But you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on litigation and other issues, okay? And, I don't know what this would cost, but I just, I made a request for you to
It's
look
not the cost,
into
it's
it.
the centers already in place already. You just need somebody to come in and say, okay, we want to get in Macy's or Target or whatever. We have it still in place. We need the people to come in and buy it.
Right, you need the people, plus you need to sell it to the people, because you have to get the banks to back it, you have to get the
Right,
builders
it's-
to back it.
We can't get the
People,
banks to back it.
It's not
It's
gonna
something
be
we
available.
must have. We don't have that. It's up to the individual company, corporation, to come in and say, yes, we want to do something with this. We were giving them all the pre-approved, pretty much. Standard what they need. All they have to do is come in and start developing.
If I
There's
may,
no one out there that wants to spend the money.
before the economy went into recession in 2008 and 9, almost the entire track from Roosevelt Boulevard down quarter of a mile down Route 9 was under contract with large stores, okay? And that was about the time we were implementing our plan, and it was going to be developed. The banking industry and the economy collapsed. So if the economy ever comes back, the plan is in place because the Township Committee and the Planning Board have produced a plan so that that can be developed, that encourages development. So what you're asking for has already been done. The reason it's not being done now is the same reason you don't see commercial development occurring anywhere. The only development you see is some residential projects along the shore. There's no large-scale commercial development is occurring because of the banking collapse and the tight money.
But what I'm talking about is when you do town centers, I mean, you can put in housing.
That's in our town
It's in
center.
our turn, so.
If you look at the
Where you
document, it's
can
already
have-
there.
You know, businesses downstairs and.
That's what's in that.
It's already there. Natalie, you need to read the documents. It's in our master plan and it's in our zoning ordinance. It's already there.
For Tuckahoe and Petersburg.
I'm not sure what's in Tuckahoe, but I know in Lamora it is.
And
Well,
Seville.
that was my concern. It
Well, the
seems
problem
like
is you have to plan what supports it, and there's no major highway. There's 100 to 200,000 cars that pass through Memora with a full exchange. That's why those stores were interested in that area. That's what supports it economically.
Also in Tuckahoe, there's not enough sufficient vacant land or ability to redevelop in Tuckahoe to that extent. You know, you're talking about very limited redevelopment
So now
potential
we're getting
in.
stuck with empty centers in Seaville and along Highway 50.
Well,
And I also.
You're talking about Tuckahoe, are you talking about Tuckahoe or are you talking about Seville?
Right, you know what, we're getting way, do you have
a?
no, I'm not trying to cut you off, but do you have a specific question that we might, because there are other individuals that may want to ask questions too. I mean, we're not,
Just that, you
but
know,
we're having a private conversation here.
I just feel like your only focus has been on Aurora and you've neglected the other areas. Now, if it's there, I haven't seen it. I guess I'll have to go look at it again. But I do know that there's issues with the signage, the streetscape, a lot of things that can be looked at. And again, you have to get the builders on board, the bankers, and, you know, so that the people come there. And I personally, I don't like having to drive 40 minutes to do shopping.
Neither do I, but you know, it's unfortunate, it is what it is. There is a town center in place. We just can't get the people to come in and develop.
Wow, okay, thank you.
We have all the steps in place for them to come in, they're just not, the economy does not allow that.
Would anyone else like to address the township community? Yes.
Good evening, Georgina Shanley from Ocean City. I'm co-founder of Doncaster Pylons Coalition, and I think there's a lot of misinformation being given about this pipeline, and I really would implore you decision makers to educate yourselves as to the potential problems that this transmission line will have in your community, and also in Ocean City, the whole area. This is, it's not a pipeline where you can tap into, that you can step down from different areas and tap into it and get domestic gas for local citizens. It's a very, very high pressure 24-inch steel pipeline divided into 8 segments to go 22 miles. And you keep bringing up, Mr. Dietrich, that it's, you know, similar to the one in Mays Landing. I hear many of the comments here that there are many gas pipelines through Cape May County. That is true. There are many gas pipelines, but there's nothing like this very, very high pressure, up to 700 PSIs. pressure gas pipeline, which will go under the Tuckahoe River, horizontally drilled, more than 70 feet under there. It's not just going to go surgically along the road and not make an impact. With regards to jobs, according to the report that was made for South Jersey Gas, there'll be 75 jobs in the construction for 9 months. That's it. It's going to, if the gas plant goes into effect, it's going to be very, very, very mechanized, very noisy, 24/7. It has ultrafine particles that are emitted. It's going to damage not just the elderly and the middle-aged like ourselves, but the young ones with this very fine particles, even more so than the coal plant that now exists. I really would implore you to allow some information and to sit down and listen. You don't have to listen to me, but maybe there are people like Dr. Fellows who's really researched it, and he's an Upper Township resident who can educate you, because we all want to leave a good legacy in life.
Would you be willing to organize a group to support keeping that plant coal and allowing it to exist as a coal plant? Or would you prefer cleaner burning fuel?
I would prefer renewable energy, and I think there's more jobs in renewable energy than in coal or in fossil fuel energy. There are more jobs, and we have the statistics on that. We are actually suffering more downwind from this coal plant than anybody in Upper Township. Our health is at risk in Ocean. I know you've gone through this, but the wind blows down into Ocean City, especially in the wintertime when it's cold, it goes lower. And
No, the wind's coming from the other direction, it's blowing away from Ocean City.
Well, all I can say...
That's the prevailing wind. Now, we can't change the weather.
That's fair enough. That's fair. I'm not going to argue about that, but if you look at the Clean Air Task Force, there's very high incidence of medical problems with the people in Ocean City that are related to coal. And you can question that, that's all right. There's just a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. The 2 people from Upper Township left letters in my mailbox in Ocean City, and they received from Sam Fiocchi, the assemblyman. It was a letter written on New Jersey's General Assembly letterhead, and it's asking the residents to sign a letter that he encloses saying that we should have this gas pipeline. It's like a total interference with raw politics with the state independent agency. And I think it's highly inappropriate that he's doing that. It's nothing to do with you, but this is what's happening to Upper Township residents. I think you don't...
Well, he's not the only legislator that's supporting it. The whole legislative body is.
Van Drew.
And so is the Assemblyman Andrzejak.
Oh, I know, all the politicians are doing it. And that's the problem with our country, really. You know, we have politicians in Washington who are making very, very bad decisions on our behalf. You know, so I can see where there are good politicians, definitely, who work on behalf of the citizens. But this is contrary to an independent body that's supposed to be, the Finance Commission is a partnership between municipalities, state and federal government. There are representatives from all branches. And a decision was made in January not to permit the gas pipeline. And yet here is somebody from using taxpayers' money to ask for a reversal of that.
Have you taken that up with Mr. Fiocchi's office?
I'm
We don't
actually
have any
going to take
jurisdiction
it up.
over that.
I know, I'm going to take it up with the Ethics Commission.
I mean, we don't have any...
Yeah, I know, but it's just Upper Township residents are receiving this. You know, so, and with your movement towards selling the fields, the children's playing fields in Tuckahoe, I met with many people out in Tuckahoe Village, and some of them are parents of children, and they didn't even know what's going on. For $67,500 to sell the fields so we can have a connector station, a valid connector station, where the permission has not even been granted. So all the politicians are circling around with this without doing any environmental impact study. without even thinking of the legacy you're going to leave, if there's...
Well,
a
just,
problem.
just to be clear, we are developing a large sports complex for a lot of opportunities for a lot of fields. And there are not fields in every section of the township. And one of the reasons is that we've been trying to consolidate them over the years. It doesn't mean that one thing's better than the other, and Mr. Young has said he's going to try and find a place that they could still have a ball field in Tuckahoe, but there's not a ball field in Marmora, there's not one in Beasley Point, so.
But to do it to put a connector station, really,
Yeah, those fields are getting shut
It's
down.
not why it was being done.
Those fields are coming out and being shut down regardless.
but your goal, you're bringing in an ordinance, you're going to sell it to South Jersey Gas for a connector station?
But not to shut the ball fields down. The ball fields are going to get shut down regardless of the pipeline coming or not.
Well, it just seems like
And
the
if they-
wagons are being circled. I think the losers in the end are the taxpayers, the community members, and the environment. And I really would appeal to you to have a meeting with some of the people who really know what's going on, because this is a very serious thing. We all want people to have jobs. I mean, everybody has to make a living. We all have to make a living. But at what price are we doing it?
I've talked to many people about this,
Yeah,
and unfortunately, a lot of the feedback I'm getting is not in my front yard. And if the pipeline is moved off of certain streets, the people would support it. They don't want it in front of their own house.
well, you
They're not
know,
even complaining about the environmental issues of it. It's just, I don't want it in my front yard.
Well,
And, excuse me, but, we listen to what you say, and you have your opinion and your professionals you listen to. We have to listen to all of them, and then we have to make an educated decision. Regardless of who we listen to, pro or
Yeah.
con, we're gonna get that feedback, negative or positive. Just like you're getting the feedback you want from your professionals, we have to listen to the feedback from our professionals.
well, it seems from me sitting in the audience here that a lot of the information you're giving to this woman who's come here quite a few times asking the same questions is not accurate. So
Well,
I think there's a very...
I told her the plans were available in my office. I showed her where the plans were, and she's never been back to look at the plans. So
All right, you know what,
she's had the opportunity
we're
to look
not
at the
pointing
plans.
fingers and tit for tat, we're not,
Yeah.
do you have any other specific questions?
I just would appeal to you to just slow down and just really look at the science. Look at the science, look at the reality, look at the environmental impact study.
And so,
Look at the
just,
record of South Jersey Gas, it's not a safe gas company.
Nope.
And this is a whole huge, big animal that's coming.
so I just have one question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Do you think the science supports that burns cleaner than coal and oil?
it depends on what you call cleaner.
Oh.
Like the frack gas from the Marcellus shales.
Well,
It's
see,
a big-
that's the problem, like,
Yeah.
everything is being intertwined with fracking and everything else, okay? And I'm not so sure that
Yeah.
that's not the ultimate goal here,
But the
okay?
problem is that with gas plants, they contribute much more to climate change than anything else. And you're talking about rip currents and rising tides, and the last time I was here, there was a great presentation by somebody about the erosion problem. I mean, the seas are coming in, and gas plants are many, 60 times, I believe, contributing more to climate change than coal plants.
But
So I think this
they are
has
much
to...
less than coal and other things that are fine.
Say that
If the gas is a lot cleaner than coal, but
It depends on what's cleaner, but in the long run, if the seas are rising and if that gas plant is right on the edge of the bay.
not necessarily do not just do the gas burning, it's some other factors that, contribute to. You have the cars, you have the coal burning plants, those are the ones that are really going down.
And our issue, with erosion is not because the seas are rising, it's because the inlet is being filled up with excess sand, and it's creating temporary channels, that's our issue.
Yeah.
So it's not that, we're at I'm not saying that seas can't rise, and I'm not even going to get into that argument, because we'll be here till 2 o'clock tomorrow morning, but I just think that, that everything's being intertwined with everything, and if we're going to look at the science, which is what I like to look at, You know, the sign says to me that I've read that gas burns much more cleaner, much more efficient than coal and oil. And whether we like it or not, this building is lit by electricity. Our homes are lit by electricity. We're running off of computers that I'm sure everybody's getting all their information from electricity. So our lives depend on electricity at this point. And there really has not been any efficient development of wind or solar that could make up the kind of electricity that we need to support normal everyday life. And
Germany, all over the world.
And Germany has oil and coal plants.
Turning towards renewable energy.
But they have nuclear power plants also.
France runs totally on nuclear power plants.
I appreciate it, and I just would appeal to you. I'm not here to fight with you, I'm not here
Okay.
to argue with you. I'm here to just advise you, let's say, very humbly advise you, to really look at the facts before making such a big decision, because the danger of what you're going to do far outweighs the benefit, and there are alternative things, and there are alternative ways to have jobs. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else, well, we kind of lost most of the people, so. If there is no one else that wants to address Township Committee, I'll turn it over to Mr. Coggins to read a statement to move us into executive session.
I hereby move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session on the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Litigation on Grubb versus Upper Township, potential litigation on code violations, contract negotiations with our environmental consultant, and personnel. I also include in my motion the estimated time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to litigation matters, such discussions will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Second, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes?
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plumbo?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
I'd like to wish all of you a great evening, safe travels back home. Thank you for attending.